Part 1. The most expensive habit in life. The most expensive thing in life is not failure. It is waiting. Because failure can teach you something, but waiting often teaches you nothing, except regret. Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I want you to think about something. What is one thing you've been meaning to do? Not someday, not eventually. Right now, a goal, a dream, a project, a conversation, a decision, something you've been carrying for months, maybe even years. Now ask yourself honestly, why haven't you started? Because today, we are going to talk about one of the most dangerous habits in the world, procrastination. And the scary part is this. Most people don't recognize it as danger. They recognize it as tomorrow. Now let's begin. Imagine a person standing at the edge of a new opportunity, a business idea, a new career, a healthier lifestyle, a meaningful goal. Everything is ready. The opportunity is there. The resources are there. The possibility is there. But one thought appears. I'll start tomorrow. The statement feels harmless, reasonable, comfortable, and because it feels harmless, the person accepts it. Then tomorrow arrives, and the same thing happens again. I'll start next week, then next month, then next year, and eventually, the dream becomes a memory. Not because it was impossible, because it was postponed. Now here's something important. Most people imagine procrastination as a problem of laziness. But procrastination is often something deeper. It is avoidance. Avoidance of uncertainty. Avoidance of discomfort. Avoidance of failure. Avoidance of responsibility. Think about that. People rarely procrastinate watching entertainment. They rarely procrastinate comfort. They procrastinate things that matter, the things that could change their lives. And that is exactly why procrastination is so costly. Now let's go deeper. Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain. The climb looks difficult, steep, uncomfortable, exhausting. Your mind immediately begins searching for reasons to delay. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe when I'm more prepared, maybe when conditions improve. Those thoughts feel logical, but often they are simply fear wearing a disguise. This is critical, because procrastination rarely says, I'm afraid. Instead, it says, I'm waiting for the right moment. Now imagine another person. She feels the same fear, the same uncertainty, the same discomfort. But she starts climbing anyway, not because she feels ready, because she understands something powerful. Readiness often comes after action, not before it. Now here's something deeper. Procrastination gives people a dangerous illusion, the illusion of progress. Think about that. Many people spend years preparing, planning, researching, organizing, thinking, imagining, talking, but never acting. And because preparation feels productive, they convince themselves they are moving forward. But movement and preparation are not always the same thing. Now imagine a car. The engine is running. The lights are on. The fuel tank is full. Everything appears ready. But the car never moves. Hours pass. Days pass. Years pass. The destination remains unchanged. This is what procrastination often looks like. Activity without progress. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is, there will be more time. The truth is, time feels abundant until suddenly it doesn't. Now imagine a young person saying, I have plenty of time. Then a few years disappear, then a few more. Responsibilities grow. Opportunities change. Energy changes. Life changes. And suddenly, the person realizes time was moving much faster than expected. This realization can be painful because time is the only resource that cannot be earned back. Now, here's something important. Every day you postpone something important, you are making a trade. Most people don't realize this. They think they are choosing comfort, but they are actually exchanging a future opportunity for a present convenience. Now imagine delaying exercise. You gain comfort today, but lose health tomorrow. Imagine delaying learning. You gain ease today, but lose opportunity tomorrow. Imagine delaying a dream. You gain temporary safety, but risk permanent regret. This is the hidden price of procrastination. The bill arrives later. Now let's go deeper. Many people believe they need confidence before action, but confidence is often the result of action, not the cause. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. Would confidence appear before the first attempt? Of course not. Confidence appears after practice, after mistakes, after movement. Yet when it comes to life goals, many people reverse the process. They wait for confidence, and because confidence never arrives, they never begin. Now imagine another person. She starts uncertain, starts nervous, starts imperfect. And every step creates experience. Every experience creates confidence. Every confidence creates momentum. This is how progress works. Now here's something deeper. The danger of procrastination is not what it does today. The danger is what it becomes tomorrow. One day of delay becomes a habit. The habit becomes a pattern. The pattern becomes a lifestyle. And eventually, people begin identifying themselves with the very behavior that is holding them back. They say, "I've always been this way. I always procrastinate. This is just who I am." But that isn't identity. It's repetition. And repetition can be changed. Now let's go deeper. Imagine two people. One starts today. The other waits 1 year. At first, the difference seems small, almost invisible. But what happens after 5 years? 10 years? 15 years? The gap becomes enormous. Not because one person was smarter, not because one person was luckier, because one person started. This is one of the greatest truths in life. Action compounds, just like procrastination compounds. Now here's something even deeper. Most dreams don't die because people fail. They die because people wait. They wait for certainty. They wait for confidence. They wait for perfect timing. And while they wait, life keeps moving. The clock never pauses. The calendar never pauses. Time continues collecting its price. Another powerful example is Leonardo da Vinci. Despite his genius, he often struggled with procrastination and unfinished projects. His story reminds us that talent alone is never enough. Even extraordinary ability cannot replace consistent action. That lesson remains true today. Now think about your own life. What have you been postponing? What dream keeps getting delayed? What action keeps getting moved to tomorrow? These questions matter deeply because procrastination rarely feels dangerous. That's what makes it so dangerous. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about guilt. It is about awareness. The awareness that tomorrow is not guaranteed, and neither is opportunity. In the next part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why people procrastinate even when they know better, why waiting becomes addictive, and why the future often belongs to those who begin before they feel ready. Because in the end, the graveyard of dreams is filled with people who were going to start tomorrow. Part 2. Why people wait even when they know better. The strange thing about procrastination is that people know it hurts them. They know they should start. They know time is passing. And yet, they still wait. Take a moment and think about this honestly. Have you ever delayed something important? While fully understanding the consequences, you knew you should start. You knew waiting was a mistake. You knew the problem would not disappear. And yet, you still postponed it. Why? Because procrastination is rarely a problem of knowledge. It is usually a problem of emotion. Now let's begin. Most people imagine procrastination as poor time management, but often it is emotional management. Think about that. People do not procrastinate because they are unaware. They procrastinate because action creates discomfort, and the mind naturally seeks relief. Now imagine a person sitting down to begin an important project. Immediately, stress appears, uncertainty appears, pressure appears. The task suddenly feels heavy. Then something interesting happens. The person checks a message, watches a video, cleans the desk, looks at social media, and instantly, the discomfort decreases. The brain notices this and remembers it. This is where procrastination begins becoming addictive. Now, here's something important. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain learns a lesson. The lesson is simple. Escape works. And because escape works in the short term, the brain starts recommending it more often. This creates a dangerous cycle. Discomfort appears. Avoidance follows. Relief arrives. The pattern repeats. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest reasons people procrastinate is fear, not laziness. Fear. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of making mistakes, fear of discovering their limits. Now imagine someone dreaming of starting a business. As long as the business remains an idea, it cannot fail. The dream remains perfect, safe, untouched. But the moment action begins, risk appears. And for many people, risk feels threatening. So they wait, not because they lack ambition, because they are protecting themselves from possible disappointment. Now imagine another person. She understands something different. She understands that failure is temporary, but regret can last for years. Because of that, she moves forward anyway. This is one of the biggest differences between people who grow and people who stay stuck. Now here's something deeper. Perfectionism is often procrastination, wearing a beautiful mask. Think about that. Many people say, I just want to do it right. I need a better plan. I need more preparation. I need more information. These statements sound responsible, but sometimes they hide fear because perfect conditions rarely exist. Now imagine waiting for the perfect moment to plant a tree, the perfect weather, the perfect soil, the perfect season, the perfect knowledge. At some point, the opportunity disappears. The same thing happens in life. Perfection often delays progress, and delayed progress often becomes regret. Now let's go deeper. Another reason people procrastinate is because the future feels distant. Human beings naturally focus on immediate rewards, immediate comfort, Immediate pleasure, immediate relief. Future consequences feel abstract. Now imagine choosing between two options. The first option offers comfort today. The second option offers rewards 5 years from now. Most people struggle with that choice because today's comfort feels real. Tomorrow's reward feels distant. This is why procrastination becomes so common. It constantly offers immediate benefits while hiding long-term costs. Now here's something important. The people who overcome procrastination often develop a different relationship with discomfort. Instead of viewing discomfort as danger, they view it as evidence of growth. Now imagine entering a gym for the first time. Everything feels uncomfortable. The effort, the fatigue, the challenge. But nobody expects comfort to create strength. The discomfort is part of the process. The same principle applies to life. Learning feels uncomfortable. Growth feels uncomfortable. Responsibility feels uncomfortable. Success often feels uncomfortable. The people who understand this gain a tremendous advantage. Now let's go deeper. Many people spend years waiting for confidence, but confidence is often the reward for doing difficult things, not the requirement. Now imagine a person learning public speaking. At first, fear dominates. The hands shake. The voice shakes. The confidence is missing. If the person waits for confidence, they may never speak. But if they speak anyway, something changes. Experience grows. Confidence grows. Momentum grows. This pattern appears everywhere. Action creates confidence. Confidence rarely creates action. Now here's something deeper. Every day you postpone an important action. You strengthen a habit, not the habit of waiting, the habit of becoming someone who waits. That distinction matters because habits eventually become identity. Now imagine repeatedly telling yourself, I'll do it later. Eventually, your brain expects delay. It becomes normal, comfortable, predictable. And that is when procrastination becomes dangerous. Because it stops feeling like a problem. It starts feeling like personality. Now imagine another person. Every time she notices procrastination, she acts quickly, not perfectly, not dramatically, just quickly. Over time, a different identity develops. She becomes someone who starts, someone who moves, someone who acts. This is how transformation happens, one response at a time. Now let's go deeper. One of the saddest realities in life is that opportunity often expires. Many people assume there will always be another chance. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. The job opportunity disappears. The market changes. The relationship changes. The circumstances change. Life keeps moving, whether people act or not. This is why waiting can become so expensive, because opportunities rarely wait forever. Now here's something even deeper. The future belongs to people who learn how to begin before they feel ready, not because they are fearless, because they understand something powerful. Nobody ever feels completely ready. Not entrepreneurs, not athletes, not leaders, not creators. At some point, everyone must move forward without certainty. That is the price of growth. Another powerful example is Stephen Pressfield. In his writing, he describes resistance as the invisible force that tries to keep people from doing meaningful work. His message is simple. The resistance never disappears. The winners simply learn to act despite it. That lesson remains timeless. Now think about your own life. What are you waiting for? What have you convinced yourself to postpone? What future opportunity is being delayed by today's hesitation? These questions matter deeply because procrastination is not just about time. It is about identity. It is about direction. It is about the future you are creating. Now let's step back for a moment. Waiting feels safe. That is why so many people do it. But safety and growth rarely live in the same place. In the final part, we will go even deeper. We will explore why procrastination creates regret, why action becomes easier once it begins, and why the most successful people in the world are often those who learned to start before they felt ready. Because in the end, the greatest opportunities in life usually belong to the people who begin. Part 3. The future is built by those who start. Most people do not lose their future in a single day. They lose it one delay at a time, one excuse, one postponement, one tomorrow, until years disappear. Take a moment and imagine yourself 10 years from now. Imagine looking back at today. What would matter most? The reasons you waited or the actions you took? Because one of the greatest truths in life is that time does not care about intentions. Time only responds to action. Now let's begin. Many people spend years believing they have plenty of time. Plenty of time to start. Plenty of time to change. Plenty of time to pursue their dreams. And for a while, that belief feels true. Days pass slowly. Weeks feel long. The future feels distant. But something strange happens. The years begin accelerating. And suddenly, people find themselves asking a painful question. Where did the time go? This question appears more often than people realize. Because time moves quietly, and procrastination makes that movement invisible. Now here's something important. The greatest cost of procrastination is not lost time. It is lost possibility. Think about that. Every action creates a new possibility, a new skill, a new relationship, a new opportunity, a new future. But every delay postpones those possibilities. Now imagine planting a tree today. 10 years from now, that tree provides shade, strength, beauty. Now imagine waiting 10 years to plant it. The opportunity still exists, but the growth does not. This is exactly how procrastination works. The longer people wait, the longer they postpone the future they want. Now let's go deeper. One of the biggest misconceptions about action is that it becomes easier later. But often, the opposite is true. The longer people delay, the heavier the task becomes. Now imagine carrying a small box. Today, it feels manageable. Tomorrow, still manageable. But imagine adding weight every day. Eventually, the burden becomes overwhelming. This is what procrastination does. It turns small challenges into larger challenges, small fears into larger fears, small decisions into larger decisions. And then people wonder, why starting feels so difficult? The answer is simple. The cost has been growing. Now here's something deeper. Action is often hardest before it begins. Think about that. Most people suffer more from thinking about difficult tasks than from doing them. Now imagine standing beside a cold swimming pool. The anticipation feels terrible. The hesitation feels terrible. The waiting feels terrible. But once you jump, something changes. You adapt. You adjust. You move forward. Life works the same way. The anticipation of action is often more painful than the action itself. Now let's go deeper. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand a powerful principle. They start before they feel ready, not because they are fearless, because they understand that readiness is largely an illusion. Now imagine waiting until every doubt disappears, every uncertainty disappears, every fear disappears. You might wait forever because uncertainty is part of growth, not a sign to stop, a sign to begin. Now imagine another person. She accepts uncertainty, accepts discomfort, accepts imperfection. And because she starts, she gains experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunity. This is how successful lives are often built, not through certainty, through action. Now here's something important. The opposite of procrastination is not productivity, it is courage. Because procrastination is often fear, and courage is action despite fear. Think about that. Courage does not mean confidence. Courage does not mean certainty. Courage means movement, even when certainty is absent. Now imagine a person waiting for fear to disappear, and another person acting despite fear. Years later, their lives look completely different. Not because one felt less fear, because one acted anyway. Now let's go deeper. One of the saddest moments in life is realizing how much potential was lost to waiting. Not failure, waiting. Because failure at least creates experience. Failure creates lessons. Failure creates growth. But waiting often creates only questions. Questions like, what if I had started? What if I had taken the chance? What if I had stopped delaying? These questions can follow people for decades. And that is why regret is so powerful. Because regret often comes from opportunities never pursued. Now imagine reaching the end of your life. Looking back, would you regret trying? Or would you regret never beginning? For most people, the answer becomes obvious because unfinished possibilities often hurt more than failed attempts. Now here's something deeper. Every successful person you admire started before they felt ready. Every entrepreneur, every athlete, every artist, every leader, at some point, they faced uncertainty. At some point, they faced fear. At some point, they faced doubt. The difference is simple. They moved, while others waited. This is one of the most important lessons in life. Action creates opportunities that waiting never will. Now let's go deeper. Another reason action is so powerful is because it creates identity. Every time you start, you become someone who starts. Every time you act, you become someone who acts. Identity is not created through intention. It is created through repetition. Now imagine two people. One repeatedly delays. The other repeatedly begins. Over time, their identities become completely different. One becomes comfortable with waiting. The other becomes comfortable with action. And eventually, their futures reflect those identities. This is why small decisions matter so much. Now here's something even deeper. The future is rarely changed by giant moments. It is changed by ordinary moments. The moment you send the application, the moment you begin the workout, the moment you make the call, the moment you write the first page, the moment you take the first step. Those moments seem small, but they often change everything. Because beginnings create momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Another powerful example is James Clear. His work often highlights a simple truth. Small actions repeated consistently create remarkable outcomes, not because the actions are dramatic, because they compound. That lesson applies perfectly to procrastination. Small delays compound, but so do small actions. The choice belongs to us. Now think about your own life. What have you been postponing? What future are you delaying? What opportunity is waiting? For your first step, these questions matter deeply. Because tomorrow is not where life changes. Today is. Now let's step back for a moment. This message is not about perfection. You do not need the perfect plan, the perfect mood, the perfect timing, the perfect confidence. You only need a beginning, because every great journey starts exactly the same way, with a first step. Now here's the final truth. Procrastination promises comfort, but often delivers regret. Action promises discomfort, but often delivers growth. Before we finish, ask yourself honestly, what would happen if you stopped waiting? What would happen if you started today? Because the future you want may be much closer than you think. It may simply be waiting on the other side of your first step. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Stop waiting. Start moving. Start building. And see you in the next story.